I would like to address some of the discussions on the timing of the caution, that sort of thing. To your point, I think everyone agrees that's a caution that should have come out earlier, right? I think obviously the dramatic effect of where it happened was unfortunate. I did get to speak to NASCAR and got taken through how that process happens and essentially, what took so long and where there was mistakes that led to the extended period of time it took to throw the caution. I think for people that have watched NASCAR for the last 20 years, there have been time periods where potentially that there would have been a decision made at the point that it took so long to say, okay, by turn one, we've let them race as long as we can. This is over, right? We're not in that era anymore. This is, obviously this current officiating is less about, at least from their opinion, less about where I was and where the leader is, and more about just at the time they could confirm it needed caution, they threw a caution, right? I think the one thing that I'd like to come from this, and I haven't said this anywhere, so I've saved it for our podcast, our show. Oops, that was almost a huge mistake. Is, what the thing is with the design of the playoffs, right? And I think you're hearing this from the Cup side as well, with what from Denny and others in terms of officiating, is that the stakes are so high, right? And through the very nature of 3 races to then get to a next round to continue your season racing for a championship, and with the design of if you win, it automatically moves you forward, decisions that are made in those moments late in these races where everything has come to a culmination are really impactful, right? And they hold immense gravity, immense weight, and immense stakes are up for grabs. And I think, when I look at that race, right, and what occurred there and where we were, and I'm saying I'm trying to do this in the least biased way, but I don't think anyone would have looked at almost half of a stage being run under green, right, in a race that's a cutoff race that's leading to the final round before a championship is decided, to say, hey, this has been a natural race, right? Mm-hmm. We've gotten so far into this thing. The leaders are already at the coming to the start-finish line. We've now identified the car. This is a natural race. We're run, right? That's where I think I don't like the idea of judgment calls. In some respects, as more of a, I guess, purist, I see the side of like, nope, when it's decided, you push that button, you don't care where the leaders are, you don't care where the race is at, none of that, right? But from the side of, well, with the stakes, with how high the stakes are in these situations, and I'm not just saying Xfinity, I'm saying Cup as well. I started to think about, like, if this scenario occurred at Phoenix for the Cup Series Championship, what's the reaction, right? Is it better for them to have some thought of, hey, say you run 60 green flag laps at Phoenix, and this same situation occurs, and it totally changes the championship makeup, and the person who was going to win it suddenly ends up not winning it, and that sort of thing. Is that the correct way, or is it to say, hey, this has been a natural race in many respects, why throw it to overtime? Does that make sense, what I'm trying to say?
Kind of. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what path we're going down here. Are you trying to suggest that NASCAR does or should make these judgment calls on, that's enough racing for today, and we're gonna
I don't, and that's why, I don't. I think I'm just trying to ask the question, devil's advocate, because I'm trying to see it from all the people who are like, well, they should just waited till you're after the line, right? But I'm trying to see it from a non-biased perspective and just sort of driving this conversation forward to say, okay, if that is the case, let's just go down the ramification of what that means. That means they are essentially making a judgment call on what is a natural race versus going to overtime, right? I think theoretically that doesn't make any sense.
If you said what I think you said, I would agree, because I think that NASCAR shouldn't make a judgment call. I think that I feel like NASCAR has done a good job in the past of saying, we want to see a green flag finish in every scenario, in every possible scenario. That's why they have green, white checkers in the first place, overtime in the first place, right? So, therefore, if a car is crashed on the track, NASCAR is actually incentivized to throw the yellow before the white flag to make sure that they can, A, clear the track safely, and then attend to whatever happened in that crash for safety reasons, and also still see a green flag finish. Right? So, you have a car that's stuck in the tire barriers and can't get out on its own power. We don't know the condition of the driver in that car, right?
Yep.
We can't even see the front half of his car. And, we can't just leave it green to see a green flag finish because the entire field is going to go back past that same point and could run the risk of making the issue worse. So the caution needed to be thrown. And if NASCAR follows this mantra, this idea that we want to see a green flag finish at all costs, then that would be we need to throw a yellow flag before the white is displayed and the leader crosses the line, right? As soon as we see it.
Yeah. So you're basically saying following that, it doesn't even technically it doesn't even matter where the leader is. It's just the second that they can throw a caution, they got to throw it. Basically,
they should. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, for the sole reason that there's a car stuck under a barrier.
Absolutely.
Right.
I get that.
Yeah. And so where it just is messy is like it's like, why did it take them so long to identify the car? I don't know. I think that what you were talking about, where you started this thing, this train of thought, and this, I think you referenced Denny, and I'm not sure exactly what you're saying he said, but it's like it seems like over time we have more and more of these judgment calls, and there's more complexities, and now that's continuous topics. I mean, we haven't even gotten into the PR lap yet, where I think one of our commenters love hearing us talk, but also said something along the lines of, we talk too much about officiating, and that's totally understandable. I just want to point out to you and to Denny on this whole idea that, like, unfortunately, NASCAR over the years has not gotten any less complex. In fact, it's gotten more complex. The rule book is thicker. The procedures manual is thicker. There are more people in the tower than there's ever been. There's more people, so it's getting more complex, not less. And because of that, there are going to be more judgment calls, more scenarios that have to be considered. And so it's not, those judgment calls aren't getting less frequent.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I think that historically, things that are judgment calls now were just probably no calls decades ago, right? They just weren't even addressed, weren't even looked at, weren't even considered. It's just they happened, and then they're just poof, it's part of history. Where now it's like so many more things are accounted for and considered, and rules and memos and updates, and that's like the complexity of regulation, right? There's just more rules and regulations, which also requires more management and oversight. And I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Yeah.
If I ran NASCAR, I would be, probably pursuing less complexity, and maybe they are pursuing that, but I don't know.
I think you said it well, and I think that's where I wanted to go with it. I don't know if I phrased it correctly at the beginning. I wasn't, and I want it to be clear, I was not arguing for, like, hey, they should have waited to throw the yellow till I get past the start finish line, that sort of thing. Nor do I was thinking of it from, like, hey, for all the people I saw out there that wanted that to be the case, and I get, personally, like, if the timing worked out like that, awesome, right? But it didn't, and that does look like a judgment call. They explained to me how it wasn't, right? I think the thing that is wild as a competitor and is frustrating is obviously the stakes are so high, is what I was trying to to bring light to, which is what Denny and a couple others have talked about, which is that you have a design of this that creates it already a ton of drama, right? And the stakes cannot be higher when you're talking about continuing your ability to race for a championship versus not, right? Which is what you work for all season. And so that's where I just wanted to get it out there to say, like, hey, for those that think that should become a judgment call, if it does, you're opening up even more issues than just, hey, to your point, we aim for green flag finishes. That's the protocol. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, that's unfortunate. But our game is to have green flag finishes. And I think you and I have been very consistent about that on this podcast in saying we want green white checkers and that sort of thing, because especially as viewers, as a competitor, they kind of, in my position, they kind of suck. But if it had gone the other way and I won the race, I'd be like, it was great, thanks. But as a viewer,
it is funny
we're
that
like,
you point
hey,
that out.
It's awesome.
It's funny that you point that out because 2 weeks ago or a week ago on this show, I think I said something about, I want to see green, white, checkered. As a fan, it's more exciting. And I was a 100% fanboy on Saturday that did not want to see a green, white, checkered.
I was thinking about it afterwards when I was like, hey, we want green, white, checkers because we don't have to pay for the wrecked cars, so let's do it. I was like, wait a second,
I think I would have paid.
I'll take it back. I swear.
I don't know what it would cost to take it back, but I would chip in for that.
Well, I know Josh wants to chime in here with some questions he had, but before Josh, I'd just like to say, thank you to everyone, obviously, for all the messages, support, meant the world. We put up a hell of an effort. I take solace in that, and we did all we could. And if I could have done a little better job on the green, white, checker, maybe we'd be sitting here not even debating the outcome. But is what it is.